all set.
Good. Okay. All right, this is David Emperor McCafferty here with the one, the only, the very quickly becoming famous Michael Piano Squall Gluck. How are you, Michael?
Pleasure to meet you, Dave.
I appreciate you squeezing us in. I know you've had a ton of interviews all weekends. This is Otakon 2005. We're live in Baltimore on location. Again, my appreciation for squeezing us in. I know you've been very busy. So,
my pleasure.
For those of you who remember the radio show from last year when I was giving the impressions and giving talking about what we had seen, one of the highlights of the entire convention was your concert that we attended. I think it was Saturday night, I believe it was.
Yes.
So you're back here at Otakon.
Yes, sir.
Much bigger venue coming.
Yes.
A couple questions I'm sure a lot of people have in their mind.
Sure.
I know a lot of people are discovering you, even today. I mean, we just came back from, and I'm going to ask you this later on, we just came back from a group of forum members of your forum, PianoSquall.com. That was phenomenal.
That was awesome.
And we'll get to that a little later on. So the first question is, how did you come about this? How did you get started? Why Piano Squall? Why Final Fantasy?
Well, I might as well tell you what Piano Squall is. I mean,
please do.
Let's start
for those who don't know. Yes.
I mean, I'm sure that plenty of people don't know. I mean, Piano Squall is just about the geekiest thing a human being can do. I dress up like the main character from a video game, which is Final Fantasy VIII. Squall is the protagonist of Final Fantasy VIII. Mm-hmm. And while I am currently dressed up as the character, I play music from video games and anime on the piano. Not just Final Fantasy VIII, but any video game or anime on the piano. And that's my show. So, like I said, I mean, it's just, if you want to take the two geekiest things you could possibly do and combine them, then you get me.
So you just go up there and, how do you work your concerts? Do you... take requests? Is there a set piece that you do?
I mean, when the concerts were a lot smaller, I used to like to do sets and then take requests at the end. Today, concerts are going, 1,500, 2,000, 3,000 people. It's not feasible to do a request.
The sheer amount of people is just...
It's just, you could be there, I mean, there's no way to even see who's in the audience, raising their hand.
There's another one you did last year, and that's one of the things that impresses is the fact that you just take, random requests. I mean, the one thing that was impressive, somebody asked for the Legend of Zelda theme. You didn't even know it. You're like, hang on, let me figure it out. And you sat there for about a minute, and he just started banging away. It was right on key. It was amazing.
I enjoy doing that. I've been doing arrangements my whole life. So, something like that, if I was going to figure it out, I would take it home, I'd work it out like that. I just didn't have the luxury of time, so I just tried to, figure out something quickly.
How do you select a piece? You personally, because, I mean, obviously these are ones that you personally like, not necessarily that are fan favorites. Right. What is it about a piece, or what is it to you that, stands out, or, I mean, does it just hit you like, wow, this is a fantastic song, or?
Yeah, it hits me. What I do is I balance what I love with what other people are going to like. So, I try to find a mix. You don't want to just play things that other people like and you don't like, because you're not going to be inspired
there's no passion,
by it.
Right.
So, I mean, you got to find something that you love that's also popular, that other people are going to love, and find that balance. And that's what you use to make your show. So generally what I'll do is I'll structure the program in some kind of logical order. For example, I'll start off with a few opening themes to open the show. Mm-hmm. Then I'll move into maybe a section of Final Fantasy. I'll be all Final Fantasy. Then maybe I'll move into a section of sad themes, and they'll all be sad themes. And then at the end, maybe some final battle themes, and then finish off with an ending theme.
So it is, I mean, like you said, it's structured so it's, gets you started, builds you up.
Right. And at the
crescendo,
end, big
then
end,
brings you back
and then
down.
brings you down at the end.
What was the first piece that you ever did? Or what was it, what was the one thing that started you on this, cosplaying piano career that you are working on here?
I wouldn't say it was one piece. What started me on this cosplaying piano career is I was at a convention called the Big Apple Anime Fest, which was in New York City. And it was only my second convention. I just found out conventions existed. And I thought it was just the coolest thing in the world that there were people as hardcore about video games as I was. So I was just like, this is what I want to be. So I went to the convention. And as I was walking down the halls, I found there was a piano in the hallway. And actually, that was the first time I ever performed publicly. Because, my whole life I played video games and anime music in my home.
Right.
But I didn't actually think anybody in the world even knew what it was. I thought I was just, for fun, and it was just for my own enjoyment.
So you just hopped on and started banging away the keys?
I figured why not? I never did a competition in my life. No, I was trained, but I never participated in competitions.
Are you classically trained, or are you?
Classically trained. But I never participated in recitals or any of those things. So when I saw the piano, and, I was just like, well, this is probably going to be a friendly crowd, and I'll get to play kind of what I like, and I bet people here might know some of the stuff.
Right.
We had a great time. I played for like 2 hours. I played everything I knew. Like, I didn't know any more songs. And everyone really enjoyed it. And after I was done playing, a guy came up to me, and he introduced himself, and he was in charge of marketing at another convention called Icon in Stony Brook, New York.
Yes.
And Icon is one of the oldest conventions in the whole country. And anime, sci-fi kind of conventions.
Yes.
And he invited me to come do a concert at Icon. I was like, concert? I just play I don't know what you're talking about.
I just sat down and started playing.
I sat down and started playing. He's like, well, why don't you come do a concert for my show? So what do I do? He's like, well, get a piano on the stage and do what you just did, only there's a lot more people there. And it's more structured. I'm like, that's the coolest thing I've ever heard. You're actually going to bring me to your convention? I'm like, this is unbelievable. Like, this is great. So then I got this idea. If he liked it, maybe other conventions would like it. So I put up a website, and I rolled from there.
And the website is PianoSquall.com.
The website is PianoSquall.com, and actually, when I sat down at that piano, that was 2 years ago today.
2 years ago today.
Yeah,
So
that was 2 years ago.
Well, happy anniversary for that.
Thank you.
And this kind of brings up a question. It's something that always nags in the back of my mind.
Please.
And doing, game radio, especially when I explain to others, how it is we get X amount of listeners, and wow, people actually do, radio about video games, play-by-play for games for, professionals overseas.
Yeah.
And they look at me funny like, are you nuts? I mean, do people actually do this? I mean, have you been looked down upon?
You're kidding me? Oh, all
by
the time.
other, qualified, classically trained people?
Oh, all the time. Are you kidding me? Like, game music. Video games on a console have only been around for a couple decades. I mean, even the most primitive form, this is a new generation. And like anything, music has to catch on.
Right.
And it will gradually become its own genre. The thing about it is, game music just isn't popular enough yet in order to be considered its own genre in the mainstream. It's becoming popular, and of course, at an anime convention, game music is of course.
Sure. Well, then again, you have everybody coming to to listen to that specifically, and I would submit to you that it's very quickly becoming mainstream. I don't know if you've ever played a game called Wipeout.
No, I haven't.
Actually, its soundtrack, a couple of songs actually spent time at I think it was #1 on the Billboard charts for a couple of weeks, a couple of years ago. It was all techno arrangements, so on that particular Billboard, it was very popular.
Well, now, just in recent years, the Final Fantasy Dear Friends concert has been taking over classical venues.
I know. I want to go to that so bad.
It's awesome. But, it's a mix. It's putting video game music into traditionally classical venues, where people commonly accept, orchestra performances, and this time they're just playing game music. And this is building the kind of the association of game music as its own entity.
Have you ever had anybody who was classically trained, who was, an accomplished person who does piano? Have they ever, mistaken video game music for an actual legitimate arrangement? I'm moving my fingers here.
All the time, and it's funny once you tell them what it is, and they don't like it as much.
It's like, oh wow, that's a fantastic. Oh, it's a game.
What was that? It was from a game.
Oh, it's like
pseudo genre.
It's not,
right. It's just its own. It's just completely different from anything else, and in time it will become just like pop, rock. Any other classical, any other established
Give it long
genre.
enough time.
Sure, let it give it time. Everything needs time. Give it time. Before long, and I'm just one cog in that wheel. There's going to be more people doing this.
The cog that happens to be getting bigger, and actually, having just come back from, for those of you obviously who are going to hear this secondhand, Mystic Mem and I just came back from a bunch of forum users, myself included, who had met Piano Squall down at his table at his booth in Artist Alley. And there was, 26, 30,
I think we got about
30
30 people.
Just congregating like, hey, what's going on? They're just listening to you play. You're like, okay, well, let's all go out for pizza.
Right.
Next thing you know, and we actually have footage of this. We'll try and splice this into the video later on. We actually have video of this whole train of people going underneath the Baltimore Convention Center.
That was awesome.
And the guards are just standing around looking like, what the hell is going on? And they're just waving this flag and this... I've never experienced anything like that before. Even at an anime convention, obviously, different guests have, their different followings, but none of them jump on top of a chair and say, hey, let's go get some pizza across the street. And there's all this train of people going right through the convention.
But that's just the thing, David. Like, how many guests are actually dressed up like video game characters, too?
Well, that's true.
But, that's what makes me different from all the other guests. I'm a fan. And there's no difference between me and any other fan. So... I can jump up on a table and say, let's go to dinner, just like anyone else could. So like any of the stereotype, like the traditional barrier between a guest and a fan, I completely destroy that. I mean,
but you know what? It's not necessarily as simple as you make it, at least in my opinion. If one of those guests happened to jump up on a table and say, "Hey, let's go to dinner," granted there'd be some people that go, but I mean, there's that intimidation factor too. Like, wow, this is completely out of character for them.
Right.
For you, I mean, people just accept it as
sure.
Every other day.
I mean, I'm very different from most of the industry guests in the music industry. I mean, a lot of these people are represented by agents. They do not appear in public prior to their performance. They appear only for the performance and disappear.
Or maybe one panel for autographs
sure,
where it's more
playing
screw the name, you're done. Screw the name, you're done.
No, anything that you would imagine is the traditional image of somebody as a performer, I attempt to be the exact opposite.